Satnam, and welcome to Mercurian Meta. All right, so over the course of writing my book, it took a year to get it to press, and then 3 years of actually working with multiple drafts and staying really focused in the sustainability of my own creativity, my own voice, and my own sound current, and how I wanted to manifest that out in the world. And I got a lot of requests on how to stay accountable in the writing process, how to stay positive with your own work, how to see your own work with new eyes, how to refine your communication, specifically through writing and creative expression. And I think that that's really applicable to so many of us now that are solo entrepreneurs, um, working on different professional teams, in our own joyful creative life, deciding what we want to give our time to and how we want to bring vision, POV, point of view, and unique voice to that vision. So, with all of those requests and knowing that this is a complex, very personal expression of self, this is how Mercurian Meta came to be. Right, so meta literally means the consciousness structure behind an entity, or the bird's eye view ability, the witness self, the ability to witness self from an objective point of view. And so that's why I paired it with Mercurian, right? So Mercury ruled by Virgo and Gemini. And the creative process is very deeply feminine. There's a lot of fluidity and a lot of flow there, but there is also a lot of organization and a lot of real healthy masculinity that holds boundaries for the creative essence, eventually leading to a non-binary expression of self, because feminine and masculine collapse into one another because they really know how to support one another. So a whole nother entity is birthed, a creative expression of you. So I wanted to specifically look at our Mercury placements in our own charts. So seeing as this is a group entity, I'm going to give you access to look up your own chart and then to work with your chart over the long term of your creative project, specifically through the windows of Virgo and Gemini, right? So the signs that Mercury rules are Virgo and Gemini. And the Mercury placement in the chart, and I wanted to specifically do this during Mercury retrograde when we're going much more inward with our gaze as opposed to outward validation. And that's what's awesome for the Mercury retrograde transits for creatives. And that's a huge word, right? So it could be creative with your own personal energy, it could be in your professional life, could be both. Really, we're all creatives at heart because we're constantly creating and constantly manifesting with our karma. And the vehicles that help us bring that into spoken word or written word is Mercury and Virgo. Mercury on a more meta level is also our metabolism and our ability to assimilate to the environment around us. Not just our metabolism and burning calories, but literally our energetic metabolism, what we take in, how we assimilate it, and then how we interface it with our point of view. And does it stick or does it not? Does it serve us or is it something that's causing confusion? So there's a much larger consciousness structure to Mercurian energy besides just spoken word or communication. Right? Almost every type of stimulus affects the way that we see our own authentic voice. So we want to look at it from a conscious design process orientation as opposed to just sort of this commercial astrological idea of clean up your communication or have good communication during Mercury retrograde because Mercury rules communication. So Mercurian Meta is actually asking us to look at all of the ways in which stimulus, that could be virtual, that could be in real life, affects the way that we interface with our authentic voice. So here's a little bit about the flow of the weekend. So it's going to be light on the meditation. I want the meditations to be purposeful and focused. So I'm going to give you 3 different kriyas, and those will range in daily practice, in daily sadhana, svasadhana, for 3 to 11 minutes. Totally okay if you choose the 3-minute option. So on top of the kriya meditations, I'm also going to ask you to do 30 to 60 minutes, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. The longer the better, since you signed up to have this accountability and container for cross-body action. And cross-body action looks like walking, If you have a child, awesome, put the kid in the stroller, get outside for 30 to 45 minutes, walking, running, or biking, right? Those three things neurologically, there's lots of neurological research on what cross-body action does to the hemispheres of the brain. And I will also give us kriyas that have a little bit of cross-body action, but specifically we're going to deal with negative mind so that we have the parallel happening between cross-body action and reducing the input of negative mind for the next 3 days. I'm going to attach below some studies on cross-body action and creativity and balancing the intuitive intellectual hemispheres of the brain, which is very, very important because we need both, and we really need to learn how to understand how to lead with intuition and then how to clean up with intellect. And that's really what Virgo energy does very, very well. Okay, so after we've done our self-care sadhana pieces, which will be the Kriya meditation and then 30 to 60 minutes of cross-body action, I'm going to give you lots of space throughout the day to do what you need to do, and then to arrive at the 6 p.m. EST Dharma talk with your multi-leveled writing prompt. So there'll be a few steps to each prompt. I'm going to give you a prompt a day, and you'll have that prepped and ready when you arrive at the 6 p.m. EST Dharma talk. I'm also going to have you look up your chart, and you're going to find where your Mercury sits. You're going to look at your chart and find where Virgo sits in your chart, and then you'll also look at your chart and find where Gemini sits in your chart. You need to have that ready for all 3 Dharma talks. I will attach the links below on how to find that information. Then from there, in the Dharma talks, we're going to look at your Sun, your North Node, your Midheaven, your Mercury, Neptune, and Saturn. Right, so you'll already have a little bit of knowledge about your chart and how to work with it, and then we'll build out more understanding of your astrological, your stellar blueprint of how you run creativity, what matters to you the most, where your revolutionary voice can sit out in the collective, how to really gather proper communication given your specific blueprint, and how to make the most impact with your authentic creativity. I think what's also important in this weekend is I've given us lots of time and space to also learn how to schedule, which is also Virgo, the universal energy organizer, how we schedule, what sort of patterns work best for us, how we can actually honor our creativity in our daily lives, so that it isn't as though to be creative, you have to be in retreat. And I get this so often of like, I can't really retreat from my life to go do a project, or I can't retreat from my life to meditate because I have 4 kids, or dot, 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 dot. I'd love to tell you that you absolutely can, and we can figure out how that works for you. This is a much bigger conversation than just time management. This is literally a consciousness design, organizing creativity process within you based on your stellar imprint. And so that's an exciting thing to start unraveling, is if I'm ready to move beyond just time management, I actually want to look at the sustainability of the energetic exchanges I'm making in my life, because I want to dedicate more time to creativity, regardless of how busy my rational mind tells me I am. Then here is the structure, literally the healthy masculine structure to let intuition flow so creativity can ignite, and we don't have all these imposter syndrome issues or second guessing issues when we start to put our authentic voice out into the world. So we'll talk a little bit more about that on the Dharma talks. We'll talk more about your stellar imprint on the Dharma talks. I'm also 100% transparent in the teaching space when I'm in this space. You have absolutely any personal questions about writing, editing, reading, how to get your work out into the world, this is the space for that in the Dharma talks as well. And then I understand reading your work out loud can be very intense, and I'm going to give people the option to read their work out loud in the 6 p.m. chats. There'll be time for Q&A. And I also want you to know that you can extrapolate these prompts to be purely personal, and then they can also be purely professional, or they can be a mixture of both, which is kind of the sweet spot. So you're holding yourself to a higher standard. You know you're going to put the work out in the world, but yet you still need to hear your authentic voice coming through. So each of these prompts will be multi-layered, and they will be attached below, so you can dive into those right away. pro tip is meditate first, do the cross body action first. So schedule that for your mornings. Afternoons, give yourself at least 60 minutes to write. So we're looking at about 2.5 hours now. And now we get on the hour Dharma talk. Okay, so it's about 3.5 to 5 hours a day, depending on how much time you need to feel like you're starting to pull literally your sutras, the threads of how you sound, and putting that out into spoken or written word. Okay, thank you so much for joining me for this weekend. I love the premise. I'm excited to see where it goes. So welcome to Mercurian Meta. Satnam.